With only a handful of copies known to exist, Air Raid is one of the rarest games for the 2600. This was the best possible thing to happen for this game, since without the extreme rarity, it would have been quickly forgotten, as it is one of the worst games on the system. The concept is pretty standard. You are a lone ship, which must protect the only two buildings in the world against a never-ending stream of invading alien ships. At first, this seems like an easy task, given that the enemy vessels can only appear in 3 different places and slowly descend before vanishing on the horizon. However, due to a variety of problems, what should be a manageable invasion quickly turns into the complete and total destruction of the civilization below you. The biggest issue is the fact that you occasionally fire phantom bullets. Normally, when you hit an enemy ship, it explodes and rewards you a handful of points, along with the satisfaction of knowing that you made some alien child an orphan. Here, however, the programming is so shoddy that unless you hit the ship in the exact right spot, your bullet will pass right through it, giving your would-be conqueror an opportunity to take aim and blow your ship out of the sky. Now, while that does sound bad, there is a bit of good news. Given that the invaders will typically fire their weapons as soon as they appear on screen, thereby giving you 0 time to protect the structures below, your game will be over due to there being nothing left for you to defend well before you run out of ships. While those are serious problems, the biggest sin Air Raid commits is that it is just plain dull. Your ship can only move from left to right, and there is a magical barrier between you and the enemy ships that prevents them from crashing into you. In fact, the only amusing part of the game is coming up with the backstory of the low-rent aliens who apparently got their invasion fleet at a galactic yard sale. There is a standard flying saucer, a rocket ship, something that looks like an ancient mystical symbol, and a helicopter. It is one of the strangest combinations of enemies that you will ever see. If you are looking for a fun spaceship-based shooter, there are literally dozens of better options for the 2600. However, if you are looking to play a game that is worth tens of thousands of dollars, this is without a doubt your best bet. Being one of the rarest video games in history, there isn't a lot of material out there for Air Raid. The most distinct feature is the unique, blue-handled cartridge that would excite any collector should they spot it out in the wild. The box, with its generic artwork, is something of a recent find, with one surfacing back in 2017. As of 2023, there are only around 20 known copies of Air Raid to exist, making it one of the most difficult titles to find for the 2600. Strap into the cockpit and take flight to engage in a not-so-thrilling dogfight against an entire enemy squadron. Sadly, you aren't just fighting the enemy and a constant barrage of flak coming from anti-aircraft guns, you're also fighting against the stupidest ground crew in the history of warfare. When you begin, you are on the runway and must take off, which sounds simple enough. Your plane automatically gains speed, and at the appropriate time, you must pull back on the stick to take off. Do it too soon, and you crash, which means you can actually get a game over in less than a second if you aren't careful. Do it too late, and you run off the runway. Of course, the game gives you no indication of when it is safe to take off, because having that kind of information from your ground crew would make your life way too easy. Once you crash and burn a few times and finally get the hang of taking off, it's time to engage the enemy. For the most part, they fly in packs of 3 along the horizon. They don't actually attack you, rather they appear to just be out for a leisurely Sunday fly. Their flak cannons, however, can do great damage to you. There isn't a damage meter or a power bar of any sorts, so you will never know if you are about to be brought down or not. The best bet is to just stay out of the flak zone that is marked on your plane's dashboard. Now that you are in the air, have a target and know what area of the sky to avoid. It's time to open fire. Just don't put the hammer down since you are limited to 99 bullets. This takes a lot of fun out of the game because instead of being able to go crazy with the hot lead, you have to carefully aim and squeeze off short bursts. Granted, this is more on the realistic side, but if we wanted realism, we would have taken flying lessons and not bought a video game. You also have a fuel gauge that depletes at varying speeds depending on what you do. Climbing higher uses more fuel than diving, for example. If you start to run low on fuel, you must carefully decrease your altitude to 0 and wait for the runway to appear. This only happens if you have successfully shot down at least 10 enemy planes, since apparently your commanding officer just wants the good pilots to survive. This brings us to the proof that you have the stupidest ground crew in the history of warfare. When you land, they completely refuel your plane. So one would assume that since you're about to take off back into an active war zone, they would refill your ammo as well. This would be an incorrect assumption because they only give you a single bullet for every plane you shot down. This wouldn't be a huge deal if they added it to your stock, but that's not the case. For example, if you shot down, say, 12 planes and landed with 40 ammo left, you would be taking off again with 12 shots, rather than 52. It's like the ground crew wants you to die. Between the lack of fight in the enemy, the variety of cheap ways to die, and having to deal with rampant ground crew stupidity, there isn't very much good to be found here. Like all M-Network titles, the box cover for Air Raiders is 70% logo. The dogfight image is nifty, however. The manual is straightforward and does a nice job of laying out the game, but doesn't really add much in the way of graphics or storyline. The cartridge itself is one of the oddly shaped black M-Network style ones, which look good enough on their own, but are a nightmare to stack with the rest of your collection. The game also appeared in a catalog, with a small entry. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to see more Game Encyclopedia videos.